This computer. Okay, so to start off, my first question for you, can you just talk a little bit about your experience with religion and spirituality, and how did you, I guess, decide to choose the path that you're on?
Oh gosh, that's a really great question, and I'll try to make it brief. But I grew up in the African American Methodist church called AME Church. And basically, that was started because blacks were refused entry into the white Christian churches. So in the 1800s, this branch of the church branched out, and it was for African Americans to express their religious freedom in a sense. And so when I grew up in that church, it was basically a kind of a fundamental conservative view of religion, but it also was in a place of activism. So on church, they would talk about, racism and structural racism. And of course, Martin Luther King and all of that originated in the church because the power center of the civil rights movement came from the church. So not only was it conservative Christian, but it was also a place of activism. So as I was growing up, that's where, civil rights and voting rights and things like that were talked about, was in church. So I grew up with both of those things. And I think I was in my 20s when I just started to question, and I think I had been questioning it when I was younger, some of the fundamentalist teachings, which was the fear of God. Like you're supposed to be afraid of God, but God is love. And so that does not make sense. So when I was a kid, I was like, how can you be afraid of something that loves you and you're supposed to love it and you're supposed to worship it? I was just trying to put it together and it just didn't make sense. But it didn't stop there. There were several things that I was taught that I just questioned. But what made sense to me was that, and I remember talking to this with my mom, and she was a little confused because maybe she had not heard it in this way. I called her on the phone. I was living in New York. I was probably 20 something. And I said, Mom, I think Jesus was trying to tell us that we're all powerful, that we all are magical, that it wasn't just with him, that he was just trying to let us know that everything he can do and that he is doing, we can do also. And so my mom kind of listened to me, but she was raised to think that God was somewhere up in the clouds somewhere, and that it wasn't really something that we could own as our own or that was coming from us. And I remember being a teenager and I asked her, I said, so if God is everywhere, how can God be everywhere at the same time? And she said something about him being omnipotent, but she never said that God was inside of me. She never said that God is inside of everyone. Inside of everyone, meaning that everywhere that people are, and that I later came to believe that trees are, that animals are, that God is there. So that is why God is in everything, because God is everything. And so that was really a turning point, but I did question a lot. And things that didn't make sense, I would say out loud. And then as I got older, I just was drawn to teachings that matched that. So I found the Course in Miracles, which is a bunch of writings that really speak to this oneness, this unity, that God is in everything, that we are one. And I was drawn to teachings from the Unity School. So there are Unity churches. The main one is in Independence, Missouri. So Unity teachings also do this. Center for Spiritual Living, which is based on Ernest Holmes' writing, talks about the unified field and that we're all this one beautiful space, but that we forget who we are. And so I've always been a questioner, but I also, what I found is that as we get older and as we start asking, who are we and how do I fit into this world that I'm living in? Which these are all spiritual questions. What I discovered was that I wanted to keep that activism that I had in the Black church. I wanted to discover and expand on this unified field that we are all one. And so, what I feel like I represent and what I kind of emanate is this activism towards oneness. And that is the time that I feel that we're living in right now. We all need to be activists for oneness.
Yes. And you described yourself as a questioner for, I guess, most of your life. And do you think this is the case for many, I guess, the younger generation today? And do you think this is why maybe they're sort of shifting away from organized religion? They're questioning the values and all that stuff?
Absolutely. And I can say for my son, who is in his, not 30, but he's 27, he really does not like some of the teachings that were in the traditional church. So he is actually repelled by it, where I was a questioner and I was just trying to figure things out that didn't make sense. He, and I think these millennials innately know wrong when they hear it. Things that don't make sense. And so he's not questioning, he's repelled by it. He doesn't want to have anything to do with that type of teaching of that fundamentalist, like God is in the cloud somewhere and is probably a white bearded man or whatever, the fear of God. He just is repelled by that. What he is more drawn to is when people affirm his value, his strengths, his gifts that are given by the creator, a creator that created him. So he is more drawn to that and discovering all about what he has within him, those strengths that are drawn on by a divine source that is within him. So that's a different type of teaching, wording that you'll find in the traditional church.
Yeah. And adding on to that, in addition to, like you said, your son, some millennials repelling against organized religion because the teachings just don't align with their values. Do you think there are any other societal factors that are contributing to this shift? For example, pop culture, social media, things like that?
I think that that's very true. I know that the attention span of a lot of millennials and younger generation is shorter. So being in church for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and back in the old days, it wasn't uncommon for you to be in church all day long. If you went to Sunday school, then the regular service, and then maybe afterwards, gathering a function, it was an all day thing. So I think that what I've noticed is that there is a shrinking of attention. So it really has to be attention gathering. So the music has to be something that they really gravitate towards. It has to be something that really, excites their soul, the music, the lyrics, something that they're into. And also the message has to be something that they can really relate to. And it can't be an hour lecture or, even maybe even not even 45 minutes. Get to the point. How does it relate to me? And, give me something that I can hold on to and something that I can do for the rest of the week. And then I'm done with a sit down service. So that traditional way of having a service is going by the wayside. So there are a lot of churches that are suffering A lot of churches have seen their population go down, their congregation go down, and they're having a really hard time recruiting younger members to their congregation. And one of the reasons is because that sit down traditional service is not necessarily what will draw a younger crowd. It may be that it has to be done in a different way. And I think that they're all kind of trying to figure out ways of how to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, definitely with social media, I feel like in today's virtual world, like churches are definitely trying to navigate that. And also in my reading, I found something called what psychologists call the analysis paralysis.
Mm.
And it's that Americans are faced with so many available choices when it comes to religion, because there's just so much access to religions like all over the world. And so many millennials are afraid of making a choice because there are so many options out there. And how do you think this has impacted millennial spirituality, just having so many choices?
Yes, and also I think it is a good thing to have more information out there. For example, when I was growing up, you didn't even talk about Hinduism or Buddhism or any of those things. It was maybe even thought of as idol worship, or because there was no knowledge about it. So there was just a stereotype and a negative slant on it. So now that the world has kind of opened up through the internet, you can read about different religions. And Buddhism isn't even a religion, it's a way of life. It's a way of thinking of life without suffering, that you can make a perception change, that you can meditate and go within and find peace, rather than think that the world is just kind of broken based on what you see, that you can go somewhere within yourself and you can see that, wait a minute, it isn't broken. I was looking at it through a broken viewpoint. So there are so many things out there. So I think that that can be an advantage. And you don't have to choose. You can use meditation, even though in a regular church setting, they don't even call it meditation. You can do Tai Chi, which is a movement way of quieting your mind, and that is usually thought of in the Asian culture. So we can break through those boundaries of what we used to think, religion or spirituality is. And let me just clarify that religion is a structured system. And that structured system oftentimes probably had an agenda. And it could have been to just uh, not let you know how powerful you are, put your power somewhere else. And that's one way of looking at structured religion. But when you look at spirituality, it's almost like taking your power back and saying, no, I'm not going to believe that this man up in the clouds is ruling everything and is punishing me if I'm good or bad, or finds out if I'm naughty or nice. That's Santa Claus. What I know to be true is that spirituality is in each and every one of us, that we have are so beautiful, so powerful, so magical. And that is really a power position that millennials and people younger need to go into this um, next century with. You need to go in with that power instead of feeling powerless. You need to know your strengths, your gifts, be confident, stand in your truth, even if your voice shakes. And what gives you that kind of confidence is knowing that, God is not only with me, He is inside me and He is inside of you. So I'm not going to treat you worse than I would treat me. This is the unified field. This is what we're going toward. And oftentimes, religion can't get us there. We may need to break out and be free to find out what really gives us that sense of knowing who we are.
Yeah, and this sense of knowing and coming into your power, do you think that this is one of the primary factors contributing people to seek out spirituality instead of religion?
I do. I do. I think that religion, sometimes people can find spirituality in religion, and sometimes people cannot. I could not. I could not find my spirituality in the structured religion of my parents. And so I think that millennials and youngers are going to not only break out of religion, but they're really going to try to find what feels more empowering to them. And they're going to find people that are of like mind. They're going to find community where they can empower each other. And they're going to group together in those kinds of ways. And it may not look like the traditional church. It may look like people finding their spirituality in movements like the Black Lives Matter, where you get together and you're with like-minded people, and you talk about loving all people but wanting system change. So that could be their church, you know. So it's going to look like it's a different kind of entity, but it's still people looking for community, for oneness, and that is spirituality.
And do you think that the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated, in a way, people's interest in spirituality, just like searching for some kind of, I don't know, something to ground them?
Yes, something to ground them, something to give them purpose, something to give life meaning. So when things shut down, which was a really great opportunity for people to go in because, you couldn't go out, they said, be careful if you go to the grocery store. So people were kind of shut in, but it could give you an opportunity to say, wait a minute, do I love my life? What do I love about my life? Do I want more of that in my life? What do I not like about my life? And can I shed that? So it really asked, the pandemic really gave people an opportunity to ask those deep, hard questions without distraction for a little bit. And so if you were able to do that, I think that a lot of people came to the realization of, you know what, I'm here on this planet to love. And that means love me, love my life, love the people in my life. And so all of the things that I have just put up with, all of the things that just hurt my heart, but I did it anyway, I'm done with that. So that's spirituality. And then when people emerge from this and they quit their job and got another trade because they were following their heart, your heart is the thing that you hold your love in. This is very sacred. And so, what people were able to kind of focus on at that time and hopefully brought it out more was, what am I loving? Who am I loving? And am I loving me by doing what I am called here to do? So I think that those deep questions really were answered and hopefully were. And then there were others that could not go to that deep place and they suffered real mental health issues. They went to a depression or an anxiety because they couldn't go to that place of the heart. And for that, I have much compassion for people that struggled with that.
Yeah, and speaking about the mental health struggles during the pandemic, can you talk about the role of spirituality and psychological health? What are the benefits?
Yes, I see them. First of all, I work for a company called Talkspace, which is an online therapy group where it's texting and video. And this question came up a lot because not only am I a licensed therapist, but I'm also a pastoral counselor in metaphysics, so non-denominational. And so I see spirituality and mental health as the same thing. Because if you are feeling alone or isolated, have anxious feelings about the future or guilt about the past, you're going to have mental health issues. In other words, you're going to have struggles with your thought process, interacting with people, your relationships, your work. When you have spirituality and you are really confident in who you are, whose you are, that you are part of the divine wonder that is in everything, that you are put on this planet for a reason, and that is to shine. Shine with love, compassion, joy, all of those things, and peace. You're not ashamed of what happened in the past because you fully enveloped it into your own self. You just accept yourself, forgive yourself, and you move on. And you're not anxious about the future because you're really connected to your intuition. You're going to know what you need to do before you need to do it. You're really solid and grounded in, whatever comes my way. I know that I am a child of God. God is within me. I'm protected. Life is good. I'm here to shine. So you see how that kind of uh, thought process really shields me from any type of anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. My spirituality is my mental health. So I don't see the same those as two separate things.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting. And also during the pandemic, something I noticed and many other people noticed was the rise of astrology.
Mm.
And I don't I guess what are your opinions on astrology? Is it considered to be like a spiritual practice, or is it kind of like a gateway into, I guess, getting more connected spiritually?
Um, that's interesting that you say, is that a spiritual practice? I know that there are people that study that for years. I mean, I'm talking about astrologers that know the seventh house and all of that kind of thing, and they have it all mapped out. So those are truly people that I consider professionals, and they're really, that is their gateway or their spiritual practice. But then there are others that will just read their sign, and then they think they know some clarity about who they are. Um, so that's maybe a different category. But I do know that it is on the rise. I think people are looking for, like you were saying, some gateway, some spiritual practice that will really hone in some meaning for them. And that's all fine and good. And I live in Sedona, Arizona. So here in Sedona, there are crystal shops. There are people that are really, really into crystals, and I mean, they know what each crystal means and what it's about. And then there are the astrologers that know all kinds of things about the planets. So here in Sedona, they take it to the nth degree, and there's nothing wrong with that, because as long as you're seeing that there's a unified field, what does that mean? That means that we're all connected. We just have forgotten that. So when you see all this division and you see everybody on the news talking about this person over here and that person over there, that is a lie. That is something that we've made up to keep people divided so that other people can stay in power and control people. But once you have spirituality and you see the game, you see what's going on, and you come back to this understanding that we're all one, we're all trying to get back to one. Whether you use the stars or crystals to get there, all I'm saying is get there. Get to that space where you can watch these people talking about all this division and say, all of that is nonsense. We're
Right.
all connected. So let's work together as community. And that's what we're going toward. So that's the good news. We're going toward that. Are we there yet? Not yet. We have to see that it's nonsense. And people haven't gotten to the point where they see that yet. So we want to encourage people to find any type of way to get to unity and peace and equality, all of that.
Yes. And going towards this goal of peace, unity, and equality, where do you see, I guess, traditional organized religion fitting in? Do you think this trend of it on the decline, like, is it going to continue, or do you think people might gravitate back towards it?
I think there might be some that gravitate towards back towards it, but it would have to be different. It couldn't be the same type of church or traditional teaching that we've seen in the past. Um, so because if millennials and younger generations are repelled by this traditional church atmosphere, then there's going to have to be some changes. And the people that are going to be at the forefront of those changes are the millennials and the youngers. They're going to figure out what they want to do and how they want to practice their spirituality and community. And that could be in organizations. That could be in the climate change movement. It could look different, and we will say, well, what happened to the church? And the church will have gone into organizations to change systemic racism, to change, the climate deterioration, to protect water, um, and clean water, and all of those kinds of things. So that's what it could look like, and that's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, so activism and spirituality and religion, they kind of go hand in hand, would you say? Or that's what people are looking for?
Religion, I put in a separate
Okay.
category because religion is structured. There are certain principles that were put in place to keep people from knowing how powerful they are, and how magical. So I would say that um, organizations that are geared toward activism, towards tearing systems down in order to create something that is more equal or engaging more people, may be the new church.
Yeah. And going back to social media and pop culture, do you think it's, I don't know, dangerous in a way for people to look up to like public figures for spiritual guidance, like celebrities and things like that? Or should people focus more on what's within instead of being influenced by, what's popular and what other people are doing?
Well, I think that social media really does kind of lead to kind of a star quality coming forth. So a pop culture icon is going to come out of what people watch a lot, and hopefully those icons will be pointing them towards their inner beauty. Instead of looking at me, look at how beautiful you are. Look at how wonderful you are, not the standard of beauty. And I'm not talking about beauty like physical beauty. I'm talking about the inner beauty that comes out when you're kind. The inner beauty that comes out when you don't want to do something and you don't think you can do something, but you achieve it. That's the inner beauty I'm talking about. And if a star or an icon can point to another person's self-value, a person valuing themselves, I think that goes a long way. And we all need to learn ways to value ourselves and not wait for somebody else to validate us. That's key. So when I'm talking to some young people as clients on the online, what I noticed was is that their confidence is tied to what other people think, or the meme that they got, or somebody got a like, but that other person got a heart, and they didn't give me a heart as a response, and they're just devastated. And I'm like, okay, so we know that these algorithms in Facebook and in Instagram really addict people to getting validated this way. So I understand that. So we need to let people know, look, you guys have been programmed to feel bad about yourself based on a figure that somebody is going to like you or not like you. So now let's deprogram that and say that you have significant value and you need to always affirm your value and not wait for somebody else to validate you. What you do is that you weaken yourself, you make yourself insecure. And so, what I think we can most do, and this is really a part of spirituality. When I was talking about spirituality earlier, I was talking about how knowing that God is within me, knowing that I am powerful, gives me confidence. Nowhere in there did I say, if I get a like on Facebook, I feel confident about myself. So, really, what this younger generation is faced with, remember when I said that when I grew up, God was in the clouds somewhere? What this younger generation has done is put God in Facebook or in Instagram or in TikTok. And what we want to do is say, you know, if you're going to use those platforms just to keep in touch with high school friends or whatever, that's okay in family. But if you're using it to get validation for your own value, then it needs to be switched around.
So validation, not from social media, but from within.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that can only be given when we're good with ourselves. Let enjoy your own company. Just enjoy your thoughts and what you're into and your gifts and your talents. And if you don't know what your gifts and talents are, that can be an exercise, to find that out. Self-discovery can be a really cool thing. So yes, that's all a part of spirituality. And we need to really make sure that we're not putting our God in these algorithms or these platforms that are designed. That's what's crazy about it. They're designed to cut you off at the knees as far as confidence and as far as making you extremely insecure and not able to think for yourself. And that's really dangerous.
Yes. And what are some, I guess, daily practices that younger people can practice to prevent, this from happening, to take a step back from social media and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I always recommend to my clients is to have a daily kind of practice that you do in the morning to set your day. Um, and that can be anything that you like. So it can, I don't want to limit you to just a couple of things, but I will throw a couple of things out. But just keep in mind that this is something that you can create over time. So when you get up in the morning, and it can be anchored to when you brush your teeth, you can have an affirmation right on your mirror that you can put on a sticky note. I am confident and powerful in my thoughts, or I am kind in my everyday actions. Whatever it is, you make up your own affirmation. And on YouTube, there are many videos about affirmations. What are you doing? You're affirming your value first thing in the morning. And you can even take that sticky note with you in your purse or put it right on the back of your phone so that you know what it is all day long and you're affirming it. Because I've noticed that many times throughout the day there are people that are triggered by insecurity. Like somebody will say something, all of a sudden that person will feel, oh well, I shouldn't be here. I've got imposter syndrome or whatever it is. That's the time that you need to affirm your value. You don't wait for somebody to say, oh, yeah, of course you should be here. No, they may not ever say it. You have to say it for you that I am definitely supposed to be in the room with all these wonderful, smart people. I am supposed to be at this school. I'm supposed to be in this lecture. I'm supposed to be up on this stage talking. Whatever it is, you are your best cheerleader. So if you can start that off in the morning, with an affirmation, whatever it is that you write out, I think it goes a long, long way.
Yeah. And one of my last questions for you is what advice would you give someone who is questioning their spirituality or is afraid to maybe tap into their spirituality?
Well, I would ask them, first of all, what are you afraid of? Because I think some people may be afraid of what other people will think, especially if your parents or your grandparents were raised in a traditional church. Maybe they're Catholic and now you're questioning Catholicism and you're, going off in the direction of Taoism or something like that. And Taoist principles really are making sense to you. Um, I think that's fine. It's always good to question. It's always good to see what feels good to you and what makes sense to you intuitively. And so there's going to be a lot of people, and there probably are a lot of people right now that are in other ways of practice other than their parents and the traditional church, whether it's Center for Spiritual Living or Unity teachings or Course of Miracles, whatever it may be. And then just ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Maybe it's afraid of what other people will think. And you can actually gain the confidence to really overcome that fear. And as you become more solid in who you are and what you're practicing, then you become more confident in sharing it. And if you do share it and somebody says something that, oh, that's woo woo or whatever they say, it will land not in a negative way. It'll just land on, oh, well, yeah, I understand. It won't land like you have to defend yourself or anything. You're just in a confident space. And yeah, so I would just suggest that they ask themselves, why are they afraid? And then as you become more confident in yourself, you're more open to share or not share.
Yeah, thank you. And so that was my last question for you. Is there anything else you want to talk more about or go back to or clarify?
Let's see, I just wanted to say that I can tell you that throughout my life, I have been, uh, really practicing and just going up higher in my levels of spirituality to the point where I can love. So basically, when you come up higher in your spirituality, you find that your heart has a larger capacity to love. Not the people that love you. Jesus said that's easy. It's the people that are hateful towards you or towards other people, the people that don't know who they are. Your heart begins to expand where you can invite them in rather than exclude and divide. So that's where that unity comes from. You're doing it within yourself and you're able to do it for the world. And so I've been able to do that, and I am still, evolving and doing that more and more. So here, where I am is I don't have to die to go to heaven. What I've created within myself is heaven on earth, where I'm not hating anyone, I'm not at war with anyone or myself. I've come to terms with my past. I'm looking forward to my future. And I'd like to see everyone in this place. And in order to do that, they have to find their own spirituality, which also affirms their self worth.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And while you were saying that, I was just looking at your background and admiring your outfit. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're wearing and what it means?
Well, I've been into colors lately. And so here I've just been doing a lot of colors. And this is an African hat. that just really symbolizes the colors. The picture behind me is of the mother, just so bountiful, and that's Gaia, the Mother Earth, just so bountiful and loving. And also about the hat, there's a Hopi prophecy that talks about the end times. And it says that in the end times, there's going to be a new earth that's going to emerge from the rainbow warriors. And the warriors are going to be at peace, they're going to be unifying, they're going to be the equalizers. And so the rainbow warriors are the millennials and younger. They are the ones that love, and they are the ones that are going to pick all the pieces of the world up and start creating from there the new earth. And so I find myself wearing rainbow colors. And then, of course, I have the African print. So just a potpourri of different things going on to signify unity and oneness.
Yeah, very beautiful, very beautiful. And one last question. My mom was telling me about Sedona and how the area is really spiritual. How is it living there? I'm very fascinated by it.
Oh, it's wonderful. So there are all kinds of vortexes here. The vortexes are portals or wormholes, if you will, from other dimensional spaces where dimensional things can come and go. So there's a lot of spiritual things happening, a lot of metaphysical, wonderful things happening. So basically, what does that mean? So you can go to, there are different vortexes, and when you come here, there's a map where you can go on hikes. And there's like Bell Rock and other formations here. And some will say, oh, you'll feel peace. You'll feel like this sense of peace or whatever. What I've discovered is that it's all over Sedona. There is an energy here that is very peaceful. And I have a Native American teacher from the Yavapai tribe called Yukwala, and he talks about how this area is protected. What it feels like is if you're in your mom's arms and you're probably like around 4 years old or younger, and you're just about to go to sleep, and you just feel this comfort, this nurturing, and that's what it feels like here in Sedona. It's like you're cocooned, is a good way of putting it. So it's very peaceful. You just feel very light and like you're just about to go off into your dream state. So yeah, so it's heaven. And as a matter of fact, I'll send you a little video of us dancing on the rocks. So every Tuesday at 4:30, there's a DJ that we go up on the rocks and he plays this wonderful music and we're just dancing there. And the first time I went, we started off with a prayer, and our prayer was, to send love throughout the world. And then we were going to celebrate this love as it reaches all throughout the world. So we danced and danced and danced. And then we all came together at the end. And I noticed there were all kinds of colors there. There were white people and Asian people. We were just people. There were older people, younger people. There were little babies there. There were dogs there. And I just said, yeah, this is the new earth. This is it. So it's here now. When you see all this division and stuff going on, they don't want the new earth to come, but it's already here. We just have to say that's nonsense. That's nonsense. And we have to live from a place of knowing the truth that we're all connected. And that's spirituality.
Wow. Thank you so much. I've learned so much about spirituality, and I really want to visit Sedona one day. I'm
Yes.
really interested. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. Well, yeah, we'll organize something. I think we even talked about that, as a family to come here
That'd be
and
nice.
do some of these Sedonian things.
Yeah, that'd be so nice. And how long have you been living there?
Since February or March. And I
Okay.
was I was called. That's the other weird thing. I was just called. I had this urge. I was like, I've got to move to Sedona. So I had the urge in January. I found this wonderful place in February, and I moved at the very beginning of March.
Wow.
It was quick. Yeah,
Oh, well, that's so nice.
really cool.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
will let you know when I'm done with my podcast.
Yes. Oh, great. Oh,
Yeah. I have much more to learn about spirituality, and I'll definitely reach out to you with questions if I.
okay, wonderful. I'd love that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.